The only thing we can be sure of about the future is that it will be absolutely fantastic. So, if what I say now seems to you to be very reasonable, then I'll have failed completely. Only if what I tell you appears absolutely unbelievable have we any chance of visualizing the future as it really will happen.
Hello, and welcome to Arthur C. Clarke Presents Meta Futures, an exploration of what the metaverse is and what it may mean for the world to come. I'm your host, Patrick Coleman, and along with the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination and the Origami Air Co., we're very excited to have you with us as we explore the limits of the possible when it comes to the metaverse. To begin our journey, if you want to follow me outside, we're going to get on the airship to our first destination.
Hello and welcome. My name is Amy Winkler. I will be your guide this evening. And before we get started into all the amazing guests and speakers that we have for you today, I would like to just take a moment to set the stage for you. If you follow along with me for a moment, imagine, if you will, which shouldn't be too hard. We've painted most of the picture for you in virtual reality, but imagine, if you will, for a moment that you are in San Diego, California. It is a sunny 70 degrees outside. I'm guessing I'm in Washington. I don't really know. But it is a sunny 70 degrees for you outside. It is warm. The breeze is warm. There's nowhere to escape from the sun except for you fine folks to join us here on the 4th floor of the Design and Innovation Building located on UCSD's beautiful campus. You get to take in all that central air that we have in here. Feel it on your cheeks. We have a lot of exciting guests for you coming from all over the world, so I wanted to just give you a feeling of where you're actually taking place in today. Again, thank you for joining us here. This tour, we are going to take a little bit of a walk to the 4th floor and introduce you to some amazing presentations along the way. If you will, talk with me for a moment. Joe, would you like to take a moment to say something? I have my friend Joe here.
Hi, I'm actually one of the residents here on the 4th floor, right? You've seen me in and out of this series, but my name here is Tilt, but out in the UCSD verse, my name is Joe Unger. I work with Origami Air Company, Amy here, Trisha, Max, and yeah, all of these fine folks that are involved with us in order to bring this floor that we're about to see that actually exists on the University of California at San Diego's campus to touch the metaverse, right? For this place to be the thinnest point between the metaverse and reality, and to bring the opportunities of innovation and entrepreneurship that this floor represents and this building represents in design and innovation to the community, not only here locally around me on this nice day here in San Diego, but also out there where all of you guys exist, no matter where you are, that what we find here together today and in our futures that we create together and reach out across the world. So thanks for coming here today. Thanks to UCSD Innovation and Commercialization. Thanks to you, Amy, for hosting us today on this tour of what we hope is the future of the metaverse.
Yay! All right. If you will, follow me right this way. We're going to walk down this hallway. Take a small meandering tour of the 4th floor. See off to your right the beautiful bathrooms. You need to use the facilities. Please don't actually use the facilities since they are virtual. And we will wander into our first classroom here. Hello, Tomo. So nice to see
Hello,
you
Amy.
here.
A little nervous
it
that I'm on the
going?
megaphone.
You are on the megaphone. Everyone can hear you now. I'd like to introduce you all to Tomo. Tomo is the Chief Creative Officer at for Kinetic.
For Kinetic Studios.
Yes. And what's under the hood for us today, Tomo? I'm gonna step off to the side here, out of the way here.
Today,
Beautiful slides.
there's a conversation that I have all the time, and it's really revolves around trying to distill what it is that we do when we design an interactive experience for others. Back when I started making video games in the late 90s, I was making games for myself. And a side effect of making games for yourself is that you don't have to spend energy analyzing your audience. You just care how you feel. It creates a sort of selfish attitude, just one of the side effects. Was being avoided, luckily for myself at the time, was the entire concept of audience analysis. What we do, and when we make these like interactive toys to interactive experiences to game experiences, that making something for others to experience. And so, how do you design that? What is the thought process? Very difficult to find sort of a simple explanation for it. And, my part, I've been exploring this space for the better part of the last 25 years, real close to 25 years. A lot of that really very much game design in its nature. And to that effect, if we were to look at this slide here about the intended user experience, it's a technical thing. It's a sort of a choose your own adventure at its basis, where an audience member, a player, a user, a reader, or a viewer, expectations need to be built in order for you to then either break those expectations or meet them. Sort of thematical in nature, because if a user doesn't know what they have to do next or doesn't understand what's about to happen, they're kind of shut off. They're disengaged. And I think at the very core, everything that we do sort of peddles in the currency of engagement to get you to pay attention. Simple as that. And to be fair, I could just make a really loud noise, would get your attention really quickly. It'd be really hard to hold on to it after that. Even if I made a really loud noise over and over and over again. I mean, not like me, you'd pay attention for a certain amount of time, but shortly after that, you would never pay attention to me again. So in a lot of ways, then sustaining engagement becomes the goal, just because acquiring it may be more or less easy. I get it in this world of millions and potentially billions of audience members that accessing their attention is itself an enormous problem to solve. I'm not worrying about that for this presentation. Think about making something for someone else to experience. Have is this intended user experience. It has to be designed, it has to be imagined at least as a starting point, and then described with enough clarity that any of its pieces that need to be built are understood by the people that have to build them. And it's a technical exploration of, in a lot of ways, it doesn't always feel this way, but it's sort of a sequence of information states for any given person. We hope that everybody understands them, but inevitably only the people that kind of like what we're doing will understand them. If we do a better job, we can sort of broaden its appeal. To that effect, it's sort of a matter of leading player to success and how that's done. It's delivering information in a form that can be understood, and then with that understanding, doing what they need to do to succeed, and that's setting them up for the next step. And so this sort of like common amongst all art forms that create anticipation, and then I deliver a result. And if that result's good, I think that moves us on to, how much time do I have here?
Oh, you're good. You have a few more minutes.
Okay. So that leads me to the second slide here. I'm going to move over here so I have a little bit of position to stand with it. Its core. We do when we're devising these experiences is that we put ourselves into the shoes of the people that are intended to use, do, or explore work we do. And have this theory on storytelling. We all have our ideas. If I say the word storytelling, I guarantee you that 20% of you are thinking roughly the same thing. 30% are thinking a wide range of different things. My perspective, storytelling is what I use to describe basic dimensional shapes of information humans would prefer to absorb. And it's also my description of a good book or a good movie or a great conversation. And in our work, it becomes a matter of using that understanding of human nature to dramatize those information states that I described at the beginning here as what a game designer designing user experiences is all about. What is the right pacing? Is balance of anticipation and understanding correct? Or the balance of certainty and uncertainty, if you want to make it even more kind of universal and generic. Any of the information that we deliver to a potential user starts to set their expectations. And of course, there needs to be some clarity in what a user can do, right? That's like you imagine there's a user interface with a single large red button in the middle. Nobody has any question about what they need to do. And they don't even need to understand where it's going to go. Likely to go ahead and hit that button just to see. Kind of basics of curiosity in a lot of ways. In reality, what we build is inevitably, in many cases, tens, hundreds, thousands of times more complex than that. And we make this effort. What we're able to communicate to the audience gives them an understanding of what they need to do next. Information state theoretically prepares them to pull that success off. Our end, to kind of improve quality of any given interactive experience, to play with and, well, I'm going to read this straight off, which is exactly what you're never supposed to do with the slide. Play with and concentrate feelings of revelation and triumph. It's about as flowery as I can say it, because, and I'm doing that particular because that's the part of us that cares. We have these sort of they have this elevated language for our experience and our feelings. Can describe it in a much more clinical fashion, and we do when it comes to the software engineers having to build features. But when it comes to the enjoyment of a product or any experience, we need to get into that space, that sort of like elevated heart rate space, that really leaning in feeling that you're hoping to get out of your audience. And the way to do that is to sort of like, pacing is a word to describe this. Compressing and releasing the pressure on the balance between sort of what's known and what's unknown, kind of pressure to try something out, the interface or in the space that you're in. Then, after they do something, give them a result and feedback that give them an idea of how well they understood what they were supposed to do. Even I don't like saying that because many of the experiences we're building and we're heading towards are so granular that success and failure is simplistic. It's actually, how much fear, how much excitement, much curiosity. Getting those feelings to occur is ultimately the real goal. Success and failure is sort of just a very coarse kind of early interactive language to kind of explore that. In doing so, able to take many cases on the outside view or the kind of the describe it in the most boring fashion method, relates that to this amazing and memorable experience audiences. I think my hope was description sort of it's like a concrete and organized foundation for sort of something elemental, something that almost all of us are doing, I think. That's it.
Cool. Yeah, user experience is such it's an important thing that is super complex, but we have it in our everyday lives, from designing a door in real life to designing a door in virtual reality. It's a lot that goes into that simple little thing that we use every day, right?
An example I love to use because it's like it's so mundane that I think we would overlook it. Imagine that you have for myself, it would have been like a great aunt or something who is very particular about how they set up a very comfortable chair, an ottoman, cup of tea, and a magazine that I might consider really dumb, and a good view into the yard, relax. All these small choices were made to improve the experience of that relaxation time. That person is doing, however limited to their own experience, is fundamentally game design or fundamentally experience design.
Yeah, no, that paints a great picture. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Tomo. Much appreciated on that presentation. That's great. Thank you to the group. If you want to follow me this way, we're going to head to the next room.
Thank you
I'm
all,
gonna walk through
and
the door.
feel free to come back and discuss any of these points.
Thanks, Tomo.
Hello.
Hello.
Am I still on the
Thank
megaphone
you.
though?
You are on the megaphone. I'm going to take it off for you. And here we have Jen Go. Welcome to the room, everybody. This is Jen Go. What do you have for us today, Jen?
Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about what the Archaeopteryx and a microwave oven have in common. So, one of the things that we talk about when we talk about innovation is the fact that a lot of it is, I'm going to throw in a term from evolutionary biology now. It's actually drawing from this concept of acceptation. Acceptation was a term that was developed by Stephen Jay Gould and his colleagues to actually describe this concept of radical repurposing, taking a trait that was developed for one purpose and then utilizing it in a different space. What we've seen from a lot of innovation is that it's actually more acceptive rather than adaptive. So the Archaeopteryx, for example, is actually the closest cousin to the birds that we have. And it was actually the first dinosaur that started to develop feathers. Now, it's interesting that they didn't develop feathers directly for flight. They developed it for warmth and eating display. And then one day, Archaeopteryx probably fell off a cliff, started flapping its front quarters frantically, and realized, "Ooh, I can fly." Right? And it was only then, after he realized this, that the more slow and evolutionary process kicked in, and they realized, "Ooh, I can actually start to develop more aerodynamism, skeletal structure," and that happened. Now, a lot of this also happens in industry. So the microwave oven, for example, was a famous accident. So this happened when there was an engineer managing the magneto, Raytheon. This was after the Second World War, and he realized that every time he walked past the magneto, chocolate bar in his pocket would melt. And then after that, he realized that we can use this to fast food, and that's how microwave ovens were made. So that's how a lot of innovation and industry actually comes together to exploit a lot of these happy accidents. So another famous one is the behind me, and that's actually something that we're all probably used to seeing now after COVID. So these thermal monitors actually came from military technology. So this very proud at this moment because I am a Singapore girl. This is Singapore Innovations. It actually came about in 2003 and 4, a very early version of the coronavirus. This SARS virus, and didn't impact the rest of the world, but Asia Pacific was impacted, and they needed a way to monitor people remotely, and they adapted this from defense science technology. Another one, to that image to the left, that's actually my favorite. This is what Scientific American has called baby Hot Wheels, and this is inspired by developing countries, and where they realize a lot of infants can actually have a higher chance of survival if they just spent one more week in an incubator. Now, the problem with incubators is that they're really expensive. They cost maybe about 30,000 to purchase, which is a lot for developing countries. And so what happened is a design center as well as a nonprofit integrative medicine center got together and they started to explore how they can build incubators for a much cheaper price. So they actually started cannibalizing old cars for, for their parts. And they built what they call a baby Hot Wheels, 1/30th the price of a regular incubator. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this is to bring it back to today's topic. What gets me really excited about thinking about VR is how it's beautiful integrative technology. Um, I think right now there are a lot of companies that are getting in and trying to wonder, "Ooh, what can I do with this?" What I found is that because it's basically light and storytelling, as Tomo has talked about, the possibilities are endless. And it's a space where you can accept across so many different spaces, so many different stories. Some of the work that I've been doing with Guys from Origami is thinking about how to collect data in a more naturalistic form so that we can actually more strategically recombine them in the metaverse so that we can create beautiful worlds and understand more real applicability. So, for example, other space, one of the worlds that they're building is protest space to understand if we can use VR to teach empathy and compassion to first responders. That's a very interesting mix and acceptation across multiple spaces. Another one, which is other partner groups that I work with. I have them to thank for these beautiful images. They're Frontline Mind. They work with first responders and they want to understand how they can potentially use VR to do downtime training with first responders. So they work a lot with firefighters, for example. They've had really intense fire seasons. So how can we potentially simulate some of these fires in VR during their off time so they can understand what are some on strategies they can apply to develop more resilience. Now, this can extend much further into industry, and we're now looking at strategically recombining and really exploring the space and applicability. So, acceptation, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's great.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Amy.
Jen,
This
for
is great.
joining us. Yeah. All right. Hello, crew. All right. We are going to meander to the next room, doing some house cleaning here. All right, let's head out this way. Follow me right down the hallway. You'll see we have many classrooms up on this floor. Lots of stuff to play with. Places to sit and hang out. I'm gonna trip over a sofa. And here we have our next classroom.
Hello.
And here we have Josie, hello, and
Hi,
Mingy.
everyone. Hello. Hi. Okay, so hello, everyone. I'm Josie. I'm a third year studying computer science and math in UCSD. I'm part of the Arno project, and right now I'm working on a lot of the front end stuff. And as for what the Arno project is, you'll find out more with Giovanni. But a lot of what I did before was digital twin creation. And so a part of the digital twin part was point cloud scans. And so what exactly are point clouds? Point clouds are basically points in 3 dimensions. Um, and it tells us the location of the points, right? And but also the colors. And so when you combine all the points together with a LiDAR scanner, you actually get this image. So this is not a photo. This is a point cloud scan of the bear in UCSD, if anyone knows what the bear is. And this is another scan I did for Atkinson Hall, the yard, the front yard of Atkinson Hall. So a big part of what I did last summer was just scanning around campus. And the reason I do this is because of wanting to create a high fidelity copy of the digital twin. So what high fidelity means is just it's clear it's more detailed than let's say this table. So you can get a lot of details in it, like the trees, the grass. Yeah, so that's part of what I did. I'll hand over to Mingy.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? It's cool.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, cool. So I started. I'm Mingyi. I'm a second year student studying computer science and cognitive science at UCSD. So my presentation is about procedural foliage. Since we see a lot of VR or XR games have buildings, roads, bridges, but we often forget about the foliage, which is actually an important component that could make the game seem more realistic and relatable to our daily lives. That's why we were developing the procedural foliage in the Arno project. This is the picture of the game thing around the Geisel library at UCSD campus. As the middle one shows, like, in order to place those foliage on the map, we need to first classify the pixels of the map, then get the location of the vegetation coverage, and then we could start to spawn some foliage on it. Next, after knowing the location we are going to plant the trees, we should have a tree model, which is this poster shows. Like, the trees growing on the UCSD campus are mostly eucalyptus trees, which is specifically sugar gum. And the Quixel library is the library we used for the models because they have realistic 3D plans and assets. However, they don't have a complete tree models. They have only complete one is a European black alder tree. So in order to build simulation of eucalyptus, we need to use its 3D assets and plans to assemble this new tree, starting from this. Yeah, and this one is the final effect of the procedural foliage. There's some other factors to consider which can also affect the final results, such as the clustering and the density. Because at the left corner picture shows, you see there are lots of trees here. It's so dense, right? We don't want it to be this large density. So we'll decrease some parameters and also change some tree heights, tree orientations to make it more realistic. So the other three are the final effect of our procedural foliage. This is my presentation. Hope you like it. So if you have any other questions, feel free to unmute and ask me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mingyi. Thank you, Josie. Fantastic work. Super important stuff. All right, we are going to meander to the next room, which is right in that doorway right behind you. Follow me. And here, moment to turn around. Here we have Giovanni. Giovanni's going to walk us through the Arno project. If you give me 1 second, Giovanni, to give you the megaphone. There, you should be good to go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Giovanni. I am a staff at Qualcomm Institute. We're working on this Arno project that I'm going to tell you about. So I studied computer science and I graduated last year. And ever since, I've been working on a few different projects, mainly being Arno. And so what is Arno? It stands for Augmented Reality Nautilus Observatory. And so what does that mean? So we know what augmented reality is. What is Nautilus and why do we need an observatory? And so UCSD has a supercomputer cluster. They manage the supercomputer cluster as part of the specific research platform in collaboration with all kinds of universities on the West Coast and now even national across the US and other countries. So what Nautilus is it's a Kubernetes cluster UCSD is a part of and manages, and all these other universities contribute compute, it's known as potluck computing, and we're able to share this supercomputer cluster as a resource for different things. So some primary examples of that are I work with visualization, where we use Docker and Kubernetes to spin up different websites or pixel streaming instances of our Unreal game to explore, make it more easily available. And so that's what Nautilus is. It's this global kind of supercomputer cluster that researchers have access to. And we're building because kinds of researchers are doing different things. People are dealing more with biology or other types of data visualization. And so we're using Unreal Engine to kind of create a test bed or like an open source project that not only can we build on, but we can share with other people on campus that want to spin their own kind of metaverse or link up with ours. And so if I come over here, so we want to be able to visualize whatever kind of data might be relevant in the project. And so our primary example is this kind of globe view right here, this trace graph. And so there's two parts to Arno. We're mainly building it to support HoloLens and VR headsets and desktop users, as well as web browser users, to be able to link into this kind of digital twin of campus. But it's mainly to remote assistance. So currently we support cross-platform multiplayer with the HoloLens, any type of supported VR headset, I believe, because of OpenXR, and desktop users as well. And to do that with Unreal Engine, just leverage these kind of template projects that called Collab Viewer and HoloLens Viewer, and those really get you like quickly up and running with like multiplayer like we have over here, and also merging these templates to support HoloLens. So I don't have these pictures here to show you that. These are some of like our development pictures over the last 2 years. So over here these are actually like ray traced architectural renderings. We have an architectural student that is managing these different buildings. So we have several buildings of campus, digital twins of them that we've constructed or we've been given. And the idea is, like for Cali T2, for example, it's going to have server rooms that are part of this cluster. So we want to be able to procedurally generate the state of the entire cluster for maintenance and monitoring. And to do that, we use this this software called Netbox as a source of truth. And Netbox is like a database that inventory management where now we currently use like an agent that we run on every computer in this cluster, and it will populate this database with everything about the system. That's kind of like the digital twin right there, the source of truth, because that's like the ideal state of what we want to visualize. And so we're able to use that, put it in the game using like REST services, REST API calls, and then we're able to do things like this trace graph. So background of this image is part of our game. It's using this plugin called Cesium for Unreal. I don't know if any of you heard of it, but it brings this like Google Earth like SDK to Unreal where you can do all kinds of stuff. So what we did is we planted architectural models on top of the base map of the San Diego region, and can load these different buildings, such as the one we're in, and they'll stream in as a sub level, so that way we can you can manage all these different buildings. We are working with Unreal 5 now, and so first we want to like see what we can leverage to have all these consistent, persistent experience between all these buildings and a digital twin. So that's one part of it, is supporting this kind of network operations center. Also is this idea that we want to support is there's this book called Rainbow's End by Vinge, and so it takes place at UCSD in like 2025. Can't really talk much about it right now, to be honest, but we definitely have that on our radar, and Arno project itself is kind of like supporting that book. We want to build a kind of persistent campus like XR experience that people can jump into and do different things. They can, you know, travel to a different experience and do something different. So it's kind of down on Arno. Does anyone have any questions? And also, my colleagues that spoke before me are working on different parts of this. Mingyi is trying to understand how to procedurally generate like environment foliage. You want to do like fire simulation with that for another project. Josie's been doing, you know, front end point clouds to support that kind of digital twin model. And currently, you know, this is still under construction. We're also in the process of integrating kind of the online services that are very common, all kinds of games or VR experiences where you log in, you have something authenticating you. We want to use Cyber infrastructure logon for users. So CI logon, people, researchers that, you know, they use this cluster and run jobs and do work. Might want to tap into this experience, and the way they can do that is they can use their CI logon as authentication. You know, support logon and, you know, finding sessions, making friends, and so that's what I have right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gio. That was a great presentation. Very cool stuff coming.
Yep.
All right. If you want to wander me or follow me as I wander out this direction. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much to all of our speakers, all of our presentations, all of our guests that have come along this meandering casual tour of the fourth floor. There is lots to explore, and I encourage you to wander around and keep looking in all the rooms. We have things hiding in all of the rooms. There are blue teleporters in some of the rooms. Do be careful where you click unless you want to run to that world or start loading into a new world. Do be careful where you click. But I do encourage that you explore, and if you have any questions for the guests that we have heard this evening, please go back and find them. They may be in their rooms. If you don't recognize their avatars, one of us can help you get there. Again, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure walking you around the floor. Then I guess I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Arthur C. Clarke Presents The Futures. With special thanks to our week's director, Amy Winkler, and guests, Paul Robin, Yoshitomo Moriwaki, Jen Go, Mingyi Li, Josie Lee, and Giovanni Vindiol. We'll see you next time.